For years, the American public has been victimized by the so-called cinematic geniuses, telling us time and again to see inferior movies, leaving us bitter and lost with nowhere to turn. But no more! This travesty of justice cannot and will not continue, because we now have the Cinema Judge!
Hello and welcome to the Cinema Judge. To all the regulars who are coming back again to listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And as you know, always at the end of the show, I always give a special shout out to cities and countries to all the listeners. And I did a little experiment this time around too, so for those who want to stay around till the end, I do have a little cool information just to add on. Now, if this is your first time listening, thanks for showing up. Whether you showed up by somebody telling you or you just found us because you liked the movie. Whatever it is, I appreciate your time. And if you do like the show, either subscribe or tell a friend. That'd be great. So now let me tell you a little bit about our show. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, clearly, if you haven't noticed by now, we are not journalists. We haven't gone to any elite Ivy League school and paid thousands of dollars to have somebody else tell us what it takes to make a good movie. We're smarter than that, and so are you. Nor have we traveled the world and spoken to the old wise men and asked about the deep, hidden meanings behind Hollywood's visions. We here at Cinema Judge, we haven't done any of these things. But what we have done is watch a lot of movies. Some good, some not so good. And our goal here at the Cinema Judge is to have one thing. That's an enjoyable movie experience. Now, I've been doing this show now as a cable access TV show for over 20 years in Bloomington, Minnesota. And what we do there is basically we make one giant infomercial for one particular movie that we're showing. The studios, they send us interviews, movie clips, on-the-set footage, and premiere footage. Well, when they used to have premieres, but they used to sometimes include that, and we present it to you, the jury. You make up your own mind. It's really simple. Movie info without the drama. I like to think of it as drop it, love it, leave it. I drop it on your feed. I hope you love what we provide for you. And then I leave it up to you. Do I want to see this movie or not? I'm not going to tell you not to. Never. I would never tell somebody not to see a movie. It might be your favorite movie. Any movie is somebody's favorite movie. That's how I see it. And if I don't like a movie, I definitely want you to see it. Because I want you to see if you don't like it. That's what we do here. We modified the TV version for a podcast. One of the differences between the TV show and this is you don't hear or see me on a TV show at all. It's all interviews and scenes and whatever they provide, because you see it right there. You don't need anybody to tell you who's talking or who's up next or anything like that. Consider this like a movie oasis, a place you could dig into a movie, get a deep, long look into it without any outside noise. Just them pitching what they think is good about this film. You get to get inside their minds, what they're thinking. We try to provide a very in-depth, focused look at a film, so you could really get an idea of what it's movie about. So you could go to the movie fully armed with the facts or whatever you want to see it. Now, if you want to watch a TV version of this, go to Bloomington, Minnesota's website. It's BLM, as in Bloomington, .mn/BTV-shows. And when you get there, you just type in Cinema Judge, 2 words, and then a bunch of shows will show up. Obviously not 20 years worth, no, but there's a few out there, and you can watch them on demand whenever you want. Now, approaching the bench today, we have a Disney Plus movie. This is on Disney Plus currently. You don't have to pay extra for it. Some of them are like that where you have to pay extra, not this one. Now, I'll give you a brief synopsis of this movie. The adventures of a young girl and a squirrel with superpowers. It's really simple, and this is a really cute, fun film. You can watch it with your family, friends, or like, you know how sometimes you have a movie playing in the background just for fun while you're doing chores around the house? This is great for that. And I'm not saying it's bad in any sense of the word, but it's very light, easy, and sweet. And there's a great cast. I don't think casting directors get enough credit. This movie is so perfectly cast. Everybody is in the perfect position. It's really good to watch. Again, just a fun, sweet family film. It is directed by Lena Khan. She's a Canadian writer-director. She hasn't done a lot of feature work, but she's up and coming, and that's another thing I'm really happy to see. There's so many new voices out there from all walks of life. It's just so nice to see and hear. It's refreshing. She did a 2016 film called The Tiger Hunter. But other than that, she's just done a lot of small things here and there. But she really does a good job directing this film. And it's based on a book by Kate, and I'm going to say her name wrong, so I'm going to try to say this once. Kate Dicamillo. Again, that's horribly mispronounced, but if you're a regular on this show, you know I can, if it's not Smith, I have trouble. But she is the author of this book. And it stars Matilda Lawler. She plays Flora. This young actress is going to be really good. I mean, it's tough in this world, in this market, being a child actor. I can't even imagine the stress they're under. But this young actress has a lot of talent, and I really think she has a long future ahead of her. She hasn't been in a lot of stuff either, but she was in the 2020 film The Block Island Sound. And then she was in one episode of the TV show Evil in 2019. In this movie also stars Alyson Hannigan. She plays Phyllis, the mother. And she's been in just a ton of great work. She was first seen in the 1986 movie Impure Thoughts, 1988 My Stepmother is an Alien, the TV show Free Spirit in 1989, and the 1999 breakout performance in American Pie. Everybody knows her from that. You know, in band camp, she was just wonderful. And of course, from 1997 to 2003, she was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And not to be outdone, it's hard enough to have one great series. She nailed it again in 2005 through 14 when she was in How I Met Your Mother. Again, that is such a wonderful show, greatly underrated. If you can find it anywhere out there, give it a shot. It's so fun. And she's been in so much more. I can't go on forever about it, but she's been in a lot of stuff. And also stars Ben Schwartz, who plays George, the father of Flora. And his list is very long too, so let's give you a couple. The 2006 TV show Starveillance, 2010 show Undercovers, the TV show Jake in a Mirror, the 2014 film The Interview, and of course you know him from Parks and Recreation, another fantastic show. And much, much more. He's done a lot of work. And also starring in this movie, and I'm going to say his last name wrong too, so I apologize, is Danny Pudi. He's most known for his performance in the TV show Community, which is a fantastic show if you've never seen it. DuckTales, he was in the Star Trek films, and I could go on him too. And in this movie, he plays a guy named Miller. He's the guy hunting for the squirrel. So without further ado, we're going to play the trailer for you for Flora and Ulysses.
Superheroes stand watch when danger closes in and save those in need. But they have one thing in common. They never show up in the real world. Until Ulysses. Every superhero comes to us with a purpose. We don't always see it at first because we don't always know where to look.
Flora! What is this?
I am Ulysses, born anew. Wholly unanticipated occurrences! Did you type this? He's a superhero. What? Do you have any enemies?
I'm here about the squirrel.
Danger lurks everywhere.
Is he?
He's flying. There was a change in the air. And the world was filling with excitement.
Who's hungry? What now? Come on! Ulysses!
People looked to the skies for someone to save them. So the universe sent us Ulysses.
Now up first, we're going to hear from the author of the book. She's going to tell us what the story is about.
It's about a squirrel who becomes a superhero, but his superhero powers are not what you would anticipate. It's not the strength, it's not the flying, it's not the poetry writing. Rather, it is the love and community that that's his. It's so. Yes, a squirrel gets sucked up into a vacuum cleaner and is turned into a superhero, but the real superpower here is love.
Next, we're going to hear from Matilda Lawler. She plays Flora. She's going to talk about her character and also how much she enjoys playing her. But I have to make this very clear again. This young actress is going to have a great career. She has so much charisma, so much fun. And unfortunately, you can't see the B-roll on this because it's a podcast. But when you watch the B-roll, it's just so fun. She has so much energy and she just brings so much life to everything around her. You'll hear what I'm saying when the interviews that play along throughout this show. So here she is talking about her character and how much she enjoyed playing her.
I play Flora, and she's a very brave, smart, kind, really great girl. And I think she's definitely going through some, troubles, and she's unsure about a lot of things right now. And it's a great character. I love Flora so much, and I love playing her. But, Ulysses comes in, and he pretty much saves her.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from the director of this film, Lena Khan. And in this interview, she's going to talk about what Flora's going through with the stress of her parents being separated and everything that's going on in her life. But what really sells me on this interview, she's able to compare this story a little bit with Andy from Shawshank Redemption. Any actor or director can reference Shawshank. I'm a fan, I'm not going to lie. So just that alone, I love this lady. So here she is.
Flora, when you first meet her, has just gone through a little bit of trauma in her own life, which is that her parents recently separated. So you had a girl who's smart, she's innovative, she loves comic books, and this is just some months after her parents got separated, and now she has become a true blue cynic. She reads a book called Terrible Things Can Happen to You. She knows how to do CPR. She is set, and she's like Andy Dufresne in The Shawshank Redemption, telling Red, hope is a bad thing. That's Flora when we meet her, until Ulysses comes into her life and shows her, you know what, maybe you can give hope just one more chance, and you might see something you didn't think was out there.
Up next, we're going to hear from Alyson Hannigan, who plays Phyllis, the mother, and she's going to talk about Flora and what she's going through, being cynical, and her friendship with the squirrel.
Well, Flora in Ulysses is about this young girl who loves comics. She's very imaginative. She's cynical because her family is going through this new phase where the parents have separated and they're trying to navigate that, and life is sort of become overwhelming for everyone, and they're sort of, the family unit has a disconnect. And this young girl, Flora, she rescues a squirrel from a vacuum and saves its life, and only to discover that the squirrel now has superhero powers, and her life changes for the better because of her new friendship with this squirrel. And honestly, Ulysses, the squirrel, changes their whole family's life for the better.
Now, coming up next, we're going to play a clip for you. Now, in this clip, Flora discovers Ulysses can communicate with her. They're in her bedroom, and she's talking to the squirrel, and she's just trying to figure out what's going on. So here's a clip from Flora and Ulysses.
Did you type this? Do not hope, observe. Terrible things can happen to you made it very clear that hope can get in the way of action. A true cynic has no luxury for hope, only observation. Ulysses, can you understand me? Holy Bagumba! Can you talk? Okay, that's not really talking, but still! I knew it! The vacuum made you a superhero. It sucked up an unassuming squirrel and spit out a Ulysses.
Now, coming up next, we're going to hear from Alyson Hannigan again, and she's going to talk a little bit more about the story.
It's the story of this girl, and her family is at this crossroads. It's sort of all crumbling, and she's losing hope, and upon chance, a squirrel comes into her life that somehow has these incredible superpowers due to a A freak accident with a vacuum.
Now, coming up next, we're going to have a fantastic interview from Ben Schwartz, who plays the father of Flora. What sets this interview apart is, when they're doing these interviews now, they're done via Skype. Back in the old days, if you will, they always had a professional group come in and they'd shoot it professionally. But now, since COVID is around, they have to do all these press meetings from home. So in this interview, he's talking about his character, how he used to write comics and all these things, just describing his character. And then near the end of the interview, he pitches it over to Matilda. And like I said earlier, you know how Matilda has great chemistry and energy? These two together are just fantastic. And you can just tell in their interactions, even when they're doing this interview. A lot of times when people do interviews like this, they just say, yes, this is my story, blah, blah, blah. But he interacts with her. He goes, tell us what you are, or whatever he says. It's fantastic. And I wish you guys could see the B-roll for this movie, because these two on set were having so much fun, and it's so cool just to watch them interact. So anyway, here's that interview and how he brings her into it.
So I play a character named George Buckman. My name is Ben Schwartz. I play a character named George Buckman, and I'm the father of Flora, played masterfully by Matilda Lawler. My character is a comic book artist, who an aspiring comic book artist that when he was younger had the drive and passion, and slowly after getting beaten down a little bit throughout his life, lost all that hope and all that passion. And it takes the love and the imagination of Matilda's character Flora and this magical superhero squirrel in order to reinvigorate himself and find confidence in himself. Matilda, who do you play in the movie Flora Ulysses on Disney+?
I play a 10-year-old girl named Flora Buckman, and she loves comic books. And after her parents separate, she becomes a cynic, and cynics have the policy to not hope, but to observe. And so she kind of closes herself off and decides that she can't hope. And so then she meets a squirrel named Ulysses, who she names Ulysses, and turns out the squirrel has superpowers. And so she and Ulysses become the best of friends, and Ulysses brings her family together, and then she decides that it's okay to hope.
Now, in the same vein of that interview, it kind of happened again when they were interviewing Ben Schwartz about why he took this film. He's talking about how he's always wanted to be part of a Disney film and how good the script is. And again, while he's doing his interview, he drags in Matilda. So here's that interview.
For me, the script was amazing and I loved it. I loved Brad Copeland wrote this great script. He's a writer on Arrested Development, and the book created by Kate was unbelievable. So the idea of the words themselves were amazing and made me excited and wanted to do it. And then to be in a Disney movie, to see that emblem, to see that castle at the beginning of a film, and to be a part of that legendary franchise, and so it was all of those things. I loved those family movies from Disney growing up, so I really want to be a part of one. And then we just got very lucky that they found this little girl, Matilda Lawler, to be the star of this film. Matilda, how would you answer that question?
I would answer it kind of similarly. I loved the script, and I immediately just fell in love with all the characters, and I knew it was a great message. And even before COVID, it was a message that the world needed to hear, but even now it's more so. So, it's just the script, the message, everything, the characters. Yeah.
Just like how we just heard from those two about why they took the role, next we're going to hear from Alyson Hannigan, and she explains why she wanted to make this film. And again, this is a great interview.
I wanted to do this film because I was I still am such a big fan of the book, and my daughters and I just love it. And then when I read the script, I was thrilled that it had everything that I loved about the book, and more. And so I was thrilled that I got to be a part of this very special, wonderful project.
Coming up next, we're going to play another clip from this movie. Now, in this scene, Alyson Hannigan, who plays the mother, is approaching the door. She opens it up, and her estranged husband is standing out there. And they have this little awkward conversation, because right now, everything's kind of odd. So, in this conversation, at one point, they're going to hug or shake hands. So she tries to put out the hand, he tries to hug her, and it's just this awkward, okay, what are we doing? And when they do almost hug, in a sense, their kind of arms are just like extended out, and she's kind of like pats his head. And then he walks in, and they're having a little discussion, and then Flora walks by, and she has something underneath her shirt. She's obviously hiding the squirrel, and she just runs upstairs. And then, of course, Alyson Hannigan voices her concern to her strange husband about her behavior.
You don't have to ring the bell, but you do have to fix it.
But I don't live here anymore.
Which thing are you responding to?
Ringing it.
So you'll fix it.
Oh, I did fix it. That's why it sounds that way.
Hi.
Oh. So I was gonna give you yeah, just like a adult hug.
Yeah.
Great. Where's Flora?
Well, she ran off with a squirrel.
Hi, Dad. I just gotta run upstairs.
Okay.
What's under your sweatshirt?
Nothing.
It's moving.
I'm pregnant?
Is it the squirrel?
Yes.
Flora! Flora! Did you see that? She's totally ignoring me. She's never done that before. I'm afraid it's drugs.
She's 10.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Alyson Hannigan. In this interview, they ask her what traits she shares with the character and what traits she does not.
The qualities that I share with my character Phyllis would be, well, we look very similar. So that's one. I think that like Phyllis, I definitely have a very creative side, and I like to really sort of overdo things. You know, if I'm planning a party, I just full on go into it. And she's a romance novel writer, so she thinks like I'm going to do this period piece, so I must make everything look like that time period. So I can relate to like really trying to just go fully into something and fully commit to it. But where the similarities end is that I try not to just completely lose sight of the fact that I have relationships with other people, and so I try not to neglect those. Not that she's trying to neglect those, but I think she gets very distracted and so fully in that she becomes so consumed she doesn't see that her life is sort of falling apart around her.
Coming up next, they ask Matilda the same question.
I think Flora and I both are very curious about the world, and we both want to learn as much as we can and get excited about things. And Flora, I like to think that I'm like Flora because she has such a big heart and is really just kind, and yeah. So I like to think that I'm like her in that way too. And then I say that I'm different from her. I mean, I've never been much of a cynic myself, but so I've never been much of a cynic, but how she starts off. But then she grows into not a cynic, and that's where we kind of can relate a bit more.
Now, coming up next, we're going to play another clip from this film. Now, in this scene, Flora and her father are walking down the street, and he starts looking in his pockets, and he realized he locked his keys in the car. Here they are trying to figure out how can he get in his car. A friend of hers is walking with them, and he realizes one of the windows is cracked open. What they do is they get Ulysses, he crawls inside, and then there's this whole banter back and forth where Ulysses is sitting there trying to unlock the door, keep pushing the button, on and off, on and off, on and off, and while they're trying to open the door. So anyway, that's a basic summary of what this scene's about.
What?
I locked my keys in the car.
Dad!
I'm sorry. I'm not used to being on the run with a fugitive squirrel. Do you see him?
No.
Is that it? Right there. Is that them?
That's
No,
not
that's not them. Of course it's not them. There. Nailed it.
No, I can't see.
Okay, fine.
It's just down a little. Ulysses? See, I told you it was a superpower. No, Ulysses, you only have to hit it once.
Go. Now. Now. No. Now. Ulysses, stop it. Now. Stop it. Now. Wait. Don't. Give me a second. Pull it now. Come on. Ulysses.
Got it. Good job, Ulysses.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Ben Schwartz. Now, in this interview, he talks about how every character has a very unique arc.
Flora, played by Matilda Lawler. What's interesting is that she's playing a 10-year-old, but she's playing it in a way that she has such an adult point of view, and the way that she sees the world is so unique and exciting. And through her and her vision of what she sees the world, and through this magical squirrel, the superhero squirrel that she finds, hope kind of comes back into this family's life, and that hope kind of brings the family back together. But it's so fun because you get to see the change in all of the characters. Like my character at the beginning is a little bit sadder, and after he sees all this hope and magic that's in the world, his life blossoms, you know what I mean? And with that, his wife Phyllis, played by Alyson, it's such a fun thing to watch this family kind of be at an impasse and not know what to do, and have so many questions, and then through this incredible daughter, Flora, and through this magical squirrel, the superhero-like squirrel, all these magnificent things happen.
Up next, we're going to hear from Matilda Lawler, who plays Flora. She talks about some of her experiences working on this film.
I feel like I've had so many great experiences making the film, but I feel like, I don't know if it's the whole experience I won't forget, but also just the people. I feel like the people are the big thing that I won't ever forget.
Next, we're going to play a scene from this film. Now, in this scene, Flora and her father end up showing this other person how smart Ulysses really is.
In my philosophical opinion, this squirrel is just fine.
You feel okay, Ulysses?
He has the power to understand.
And we can't return him to the wild. He's here for a reason, and we're going to help him find it.
I thought a squirrel stealing from my bird feeder was impressive.
Hey, look.
Okay, it feels superhero-y. Forever and wanting is stomach?
It's poetry. He's a great poet.
Or he's hungry.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Ben Schwartz, who plays the father in this film. Now, in this interview, he talks about in the book, his character isn't that big, but for the screenplay, they flushed him out more and made it a bigger part. And they really go into about how his passion for writing comics gets transferred to Flora.
I play a character named George Buckman. I play the father of Flora, who in the book is not in it quite that much, but Brad Copeland wrote this great script where George and Phyllis are, George, Phyllis, and Flora. It really follows the story of them and William Spiver, which is gorgeous. And my character was used to write his own comics, but never really had what it takes to publish them, whether it's that he was afraid that he was going to fail or he just didn't believe in himself. And so that imagination is so ingrained in his daughter, and the way of thinking and the way this, building your own world is so ingrained in Flora that it's great to see it passed down from generation to generation. But even though I start off as feeling like I'm kind of being beaten by the world, in the end I feel like I'm triumphant and people understand me and really connect with me finally, which is exciting.
Coming up next, we hear from Matilda, who plays Flora. In this interview, she talks about how this book in this movie is intelligent, not just an action-packed, bells and whistles type thing, but people her age do like intelligent books and movies.
Sometimes there are like TV shows and movies and books that kind of think kids don't want to hear a good story, like that they just want to hear the fun action-packed stuff. But really, Flora and Ulysses has a good message that a lot of kids can relate to. So I think when something like that comes along, kids really grab onto that and like it. And I think it's important that we kind of realize that kids like that sort of thing and start putting out better messages and more deep messages.
Coming up next, we have Ben Schwartz talking kind of in the same vein that she just did about how intelligent these characters are, and that fans will appreciate a movie that's not just flat in one way?
I think it's that the writing is great. The characters are great. I think if you have great characters and you have great drive and emotion, then people are going to flock towards it. And I think the idea of playing Flora at the top of her intelligence, not playing her like a little kid who doesn't know what she's talking about, but her sentences are well put together, her thoughts are well organized, and she wants to do good. I think a lot of people who are reading as adults can see themselves in that character and can see the hope that she has in that character and want to connect with it. You know what I mean? And want to believe just like Flora believes. So that's what I would think.
Up next, we hear from Alyson. She talks about why she thinks these books are so popular.
I think that the popularity of the book Flora and Ulysses is probably because of how brilliantly Kate Dicamillo, the author, writes her characters and her stories, and she just transports you into these worlds that are so creative and imaginative. And I know for myself, I just want to live in that world. So I love being able to visit them each time I picked up the books. And I think there's so many different aspects that people can relate to. So I love all of her books, and they're all so different and so incredibly special.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Ben Schwartz, and he talks about how impressed he was with the director.
Lena Khan is directing this film, and she's been fantastic and wonderful. And one of the great things about Lena is that she has a complete vision. She works her butt off. She wants this to be as good as we want this to be. She has really put everything she has into this. And you can see it every day. And she's collaborative, and she's able to keep her vision, but also be collaborative with the actors and also the thousands of different departments that are coming after you each moment. And so it's inspiring to watch her work, and it's a big moment for her. And I really want it. I think we're really excited because she's nailing it, and she's putting together a really exciting, fun movie. And she's putting her stamp on it, which makes it, like what makes it feels like a Lena movie. And for this to be one of her first projects, you know what I mean? It's a big undertaking, and she's really doing it, man. She's really coming to play, so it's very exciting.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from Danny Pudi, and he talks about the characters, the relationships, and that's why people will really like this film.
You're going to love this movie. It's super sweet. It's got something for everybody. Like I said, there's this awesome relationship between the parents trying to figure out their relationship, which is great for adults to relate to. Flora has this amazing relationship not only with Ulysses, but also with Ben. So there's this awesome sort of coming-of-age story happening as well. And then there's Miller time over here, baby. I'm just trying to figure it all out. You're going to like me? Because obviously I'm sexy. So there's something for everybody.
Coming up next, we're going to hear from the author of the book, and she talks about what she thinks people will get out of this film.
I think that what people, kids and adults, are going to laugh a lot. And I think that they'll leave thinking about things, but mostly they're going to, I hope, feel the love of it. So they'll walk out maybe feeling somebody's told them a story, entertained them, but also they'll feel loved too.
Coming up next, we have Alyson Hannigan, and she talks about what she hopes the audience will get out of this film.
I'm hoping that the audience gets to really enjoy the characters and to sort of to feel like they see a little bit of themselves in hopefully each of the characters, and to enjoy their adventures and to feel and to root for them and to to just have their experiences be something that they enjoy and want to watch over and over and over.
And up next, we hear from Matilda, and this is what she hopes people get out of this film.
I think you will definitely look forward to the lessons you'll learn. How you need to hope and how you need to believe, and you can't doubt things, Yeah, I think it'll definitely teach you a lot of great lessons. And you'll definitely enjoy it. because it's very funny.
Well, we hope you enjoyed our in-depth look at Flora and Ulysses. Now, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, ways to improve the show, please feel free. Let me know. cinemajudge@hotmail.com. Now, this is the time of the show where I thank all you listeners from all over the world because I really appreciate it. And like I said earlier, I had a little experiment. A friend of mine who was going to go visit her mother in another state. So I asked her, could you please listen to one of the episodes so that I could see how accurate the location thing is that I received from people listening. So eventually I saw, hey, she listened. So I gave her a text and said, hey, thanks for listening to from city A. And then she texted me back, no, I was in city B. So my suspicion was clarified, if you will. I guess just because it might say city A that you're listening to, you might be in another city. Because maybe it's a tower or whatever. So if you don't ever hear your specific city, it's only because maybe it's bouncing off a different system or tower, whatever. So anyway, let's go on with the thank yous. I want to thank everybody who listened from Australia, France, Russia, in the United States, from Minneapolis, Minnetonka, Spring Valley, Nevada, Adelaide, South Australia, Bradenton, Florida, Columbus, Ohio, Madison, Wisconsin, Lubbock, Texas? Thank you, Big Texas. I appreciate it. La Vista, Nebraska. Always showing up. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, a city I really can't pronounce in Wisconsin, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. Thanks so much for listening. Akeley, Minnesota. Washington, Virginia. You always show up. Thanks for your loyalty. In Howell, Ohio. Again, I butchered that name like I do every time, but thank you for listening. And everybody else who I didn't get to. If you like the show, please tell a friend, like it, follow, whatever your platform allows you to do. I am very grateful. And because I like to listen to you listeners, once again, I held off. I didn't have one sip of my bourbon. I'm looking at it right now. It's waiting for me because I know the show suffers severely if I dip into it too soon. A lot of times I get a lot of anxiety building up, so I might take a pull or two, and then I realize, oh no, I went too far. So some of the shows have suffered immensely. So on that end, I apologize. Hopefully, I'm improving with my courage, and I don't need that before I start talking. And for today's special shout out, I raise my glass to Tammy, aka Tam. Thanks for chatting with me. I really enjoy it. So until next time, be well, be good, and I'm gone. I'm Jeff. Thanks for listening to The Cinema Judge.